I'm at that age where people all around me are either actively seeking or even actively pursuing romantic relationships. And if you are single like me, it can sometimes get a little bit lonely and even cause us to doubt our ability to ever find true love. I often joke with my friends who are in happy relationships, asking them, when will that ever be me? I like using this joke to kind of highlight my inability to find love. But on a more serious note, more and more young people are getting into relationships earlier and earlier. I'm not here today to condemn you for that, if that is you. I'm not here to criticize you, but rather, I hope I can reframe some of your preconceived notions that you might have on this subject and maybe even liberate you from the idea that you need to get into a relationship when you're in high school or in college. I'm sure most of us over here can agree that one of the primary reasons to why so many young people are seeking relationships is societal influences, whether that be our peers or the media. The media has always portrayed relationships in this overly positive light. This is evident in so many movies, especially romance movies, even in pop culture references and even in some of the songs we listen to. And so you feed that to a 13, 14-year-old, they probably won't be able to grasp the complexity of relationships. You know, they probably will have this preconceived notion that relationships are this lovey-dovey thing. And so, of course, this has translated into real life. You can see more and more young people getting into relationships. They're literally 13, 14-year-old middle elementary schoolers who are in relationships, which is a little bit concerning to me because I doubt that they really understand the complexity of a relationship. This puts a lot of peer pressure on those who are single, either by choice or by chance. They start to feel like they need to get into a relationship, they need to, be with a partner, get with a partner in order to be cool, in order to fit in with the rest of their friends. So I feel like this is a very unhealthy thought pattern, because if you want a relationship just because your friends are in one, then I think that's a little bit stupid. And of course, that is not the reasons that everyone gives. Some people, feel lonely genuinely when they see their friends in romantic relationships, and I think that is normal human nature for us to crave relationships, because us humans are literally designed for relationships, community even. So it's normal for us to feel kind of jealous when we see someone in love. But don't take things to the extreme and feel that you need to be in a relationship to be happy, because you don't. There are other aspects of life like self-development which can satisfy you too. You don't necessarily need a relationship to get that satisfaction, that self-fulfillment that you've always longed for. So all these reasons that people have ultimately leads to desperation. So out of desperation, you might start to think that it is much better being in a relationship, even if it's not serious, than to be single. And this is why so many young relationships fail, because when you're desperate, your judgment, your thoughts get clouded, so you can't make wise decisions, and as a result you might start compromising on some of your beliefs and some of the things you look for in a future partner. There can only be so much compromise before the whole relationship crumbles. I truly believe that more compromise equals more disagreements in the future, because if you think about it, if you don't have a strong foundation to begin with, how is your relationship going to be strong? It's going to be very wobbly throughout if you don't even have that strong foundation to begin with. And eventually, if you start compromising on things like your core beliefs, that is when the relationship will be very, very shaky. Out of desperation, we also seek temporary love, short-term satisfaction. What do I mean by this? A lot of young people nowadays are on dating apps, Tinder, Hinge, you name it, and they expect to find true love on those apps. Not saying you can't. There are marriages which have originated from Tinder, I believe. But majority of the people who are on Tinder are on there to find a quick fix. They are on there to hook up. ultimately glorifies the whole hookup culture. A lot of them are just looking for friends with benefits. They're not looking for something serious. So I challenge you to reconsider why you are on those apps and think about how other people might be in similar situations as you, and they might just be looking for something, temporal. What I'm trying to get at here is that don't rush into relationships, especially when you don't see a future with that person. If you're going to waste like 1 or 2 years of your life, why don't reallocate that time into self-development, self-improvement? And this is a common counter-argument which the older generation often uses to discourage us from getting into relationships at an early age. They often say how our studies will be compromised, how we might lose focus on our ambitions, and I believe that that is very true, because let's say if you're in a very committed relationship, of course if you're in a committed relationship, then I believe that by all means you should water the flowers and cultivate it. But generally, if you're in a relationship, you will be more focused on that. You'll prioritize that over your studies because that is something you value, right? Because like I said, we are all relationship creatures, and then as a result we don't have much time allocated to personal development, self-improvement. I believe that through self-development, you can also find out more about yourself and maybe also what you want in a future partner, future spouse. I'm not saying that time frame is going to be short. You might have to wait more than 2 years, might be 5 years, might be 10 years. That's exactly my point. If it's going to be that long, then why don't use that time to do something productive rather than chasing relationships when you know that it's going to take 10 years for you to find the love of your life. I believe that the right one will come when the time is right. Truly believe it. This applies to other aspects of life too. Personal goals, finances, career goals. I'm sure you all have experienced this in some way in your life. Also, by developing yourself, you can also find out more about your likes, dislikes, your ambition, and maybe work towards it. Because I feel like when we're young, we also don't really know what we want in our future partner. We might have this checklist, but we might not be very clear. But once you go through like more personal development, more deep diving, more self-reflection, I feel like you'll be clearer on that. And I know the world tells us otherwise. They tell us that we need to, start dating young in order to discover what is our ideal partner. But if you can do that through self-development, I don't see why you need to be dating around. Because if you can develop yourself while discovering what you might want in your future partner, then I believe you're killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Also, another thing about developing yourself is that, especially if you're a man, if you work towards your personal ambitions, you start working, start grinding. I'm not saying that the whole hustle culture is inherently healthy, but if you start working towards your goals, I think generally you become more attractive to women, and then that increases your chances of attracting a partner. Also, I believe that by developing yourself, you can develop so many areas of your life and also increase your chances of getting into a relationship. And then one bright side about getting into relationships when you're like 20 instead of like 14 is that you're probably more mature. Assuming both of you are more mature, y'all can better navigate and handle the relationship better. You can also be more committed to it because you are not studying. You don't have to worry about your grades and other things. You can be more committed to it, and then with that maturity also comes more clarity. You are able to navigate better, communicate, work through arguments together instead of just breaking up and ending things when something goes wrong. So that is another bright side of why getting into a relationship when you're older is beneficial. Again, I don't want to condemn relationships as a whole, because I believe we're all designed for relationships, and that is one of our ultimate goals in life, is to find a partner to settle down with. But I kind of want to share this perspective with y'all, because a lot of us just feel like we need to find love for the sake of fitting in, or for the sake of filling a void we may have. And I just want to say that you can find that elsewhere in community. Finding the right community can also help you fill that void, that feeling of loneliness. So again, I don't think you should completely not start dating when you're 15. If you find the right one, and if you see a potential with that person, then I don't see why not? But then a lot of us just rush into things. A lot of times we know that that relationship is not going to work out, but then we continue staying in it because we enjoy the security, that comfort which comes from it. And I don't think that is a good mindset to have, because you're just wasting your own time, which can be better spent elsewhere. Hopefully this video kind of resonates with you, and I just want to encourage you today not to over idolize relationships, romantic relationships, to the point where it hinders other aspects of life, like family, self-development, like I talked about in this video. Don't let it affect other parts of life, because you are still young. If you're like 15, 17, you're still young. Don't worry about finding the right one, because you're just gonna make yourself more and more anxious. It will make yourself just more miserable. So don't let love hinder your growth. The right person will come at the right time.